All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Jimmy Vong. I'm the social worker here at University of Michigan-Dearborn CAPS, and this is my colleague, Joanna. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Joanna Ransell. I'm another social worker with CAPS at UM-Dearborn. Welcome to today's workshop, where we are going to be exploring healthy relationships and dating. So we're really excited to kind of go over what is a healthy relationship, how do you find one, how do you nurture and maintain one, kind of just go into the ins and outs of that. So yeah, Jimmy, anything that you want to say before we get started?
No, I think we're ready to move on to the second slide.
All right.
Cool.
So I just kind of want to go through the purpose of this workshop, what the goals are for what you'll be able to do after attending this workshop. The first thing, we want to really differentiate what a healthy and unhealthy romantic relationship looks like, right? So the idea of how to make sure my relationship's healthy, nourishing me and the other person, versus like toxic and codependent relationships. We're going to kind of explore that. If you're single and looking, we're going to be spending some time to talk about what qualities to look for in a potential partner, how to date in a really healthy way, and how to kind of screen people, to make sure you're welcoming in somebody who's going to benefit your life and not kind of engage in a toxic dynamic with you.
Mm-hmm.
How to explore, we're going to explore how important it is to have a sense of self and to maintain your individuality in a relationship and why that is. And if you're in a relationship and you want to either maintain it or even improve it, we're going to talk about skills for that as well.
Cool. So,
Jimmy, take it away.
Cool. So when looking for a partner, it's okay to keep an open mind. You never know when dating someone that may have different interests than you, that you may find yourself through this person. If their music's different or you may have similar interests, it's always nice to keep an open mind. But also important to note that when you're building a relationship, it's nice to find common ground. If you enjoy the same movies, if you enjoy the same food, not to say that it's a must-have. However, it's a little bit more challenging if your person you're dating or your long-term partner has different interests, such as food. Like if you enjoy pizza and the other person does not, can you sacrifice that, eating by yourself and not sharing that quality time together? Do you both have shared priorities? Do you have similar values? Do you both love your health? Do you both work out together or don't work out together? These are things that's really important to explore and have with the person when dating early on. And the best way to learn about these people's core value, interests, is to kind of ask about what they do and what about what they do in the past, what they're doing currently. And it's okay to ask these things early on. And when dating, it's important to date with a friendship in mind. When you're dating, think of like having a friend. You can sit there, you can spend long days together, you can laugh, but you can also sit there in silence. There's no awkwardness, or you can just simply enjoy each other's company. You don't have to rush into anything. Just because you went on one date does not mean you're a committed relationship. Those who require a lot of time and attention together instantly right away could be deemed toxic. You want to space these things out and get to know each other and feel each other out. Pay attention to the person that you're dating's behavior. How do they treat people around them? How do they treat their family members? How they treat their waiter or waitress or any bartender? Do they get aggressive? Are they kind? Are they generous with their tips? Things like that you really want to pay attention to. Something that you hold core to yourself. Do you want to date someone who's generous, or you want to date someone who's smart with their money? These are things that you want to kind of highlight sometimes when dating someone. I also want to note that when you're dating, there's no time limit to finding yourself, because you're going to find yourself through dating someone and find yourself through that person. You got to listen to your gut instinct. If it's the first week of dating, if it's 6 months down the road, if it's 2 years down the road, if things aren't working out because of different life goals or different priorities, it's okay to have that honest conversation with that person. Say, hey, this isn't working out. And it's important to listen to your own self and say, what's missing? Is it the person? Is it me? Is it things that is not meshing at the moment? Could it potentially be core values? Could it potentially be different change in political views? You know, this person hasn't been honest with you, or you're finding yourself being dishonest to this person because of, you know, moving away from your affection towards this person. These are things that you want to have a conversation about. You want to build that relationship on things that feel right, not things that don't feel right. And it's okay to not force it. You know, I think we all can acknowledge that when we first start dating, we're all on our best behavior, right? You know, we put on this facade, this act that, you know, we present ourselves to our best tea, and then the honeymoon stage kind of gradually goes away for a little bit. And we kind of, early on, we adjust for that person, but then eventually we kind of fall back to our true self. And if you start recognizing yourself not being true to yourself, you don't have to force it. You know, that's what makes a relationship toxic. So you feel burnt out from putting on a front or a face, right, for this other person. Allow yourself to really be true.
Yeah, and I love the emphasis of really listening to your gut, because I think sometimes we second guess ourselves. Oh, is it me? Am I doing something wrong? Is that why we're not connecting?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, two really great people could just not connect and not be compatible. So don't like blame yourself, gaslight yourself, like really listen to that gut instinct and really pay attention to what that person is showing you, right?
Mm-hmm.
If they are really kind and romantic and sweep you off your feet, but then you see them being rude to a waitress, right, at the restaurant, which, you know, right now we're probably not doing those types of dates, but you know what I mean? It's like you kind of, people are always showing you who they are in their actions. So really believe yourself with that.
For sure, for sure. So we kind of touched bases on this early on, but what you want to pay attention to is your partner or the person you're dating's core values. You know, what is their relationship like with their family? Are they really connected, or are they distant? Is this something that you are willing to be okay with? If they're close with their family, are you willing to constantly be involved with that family? Or if he's separated, are you willing to explore with him and say, you know, ask what's going on? Is there something that I can do? So that you can understand if they're potentially challenged with anything. Also, understanding the person you're dating faith. You know, is your faith or spirituality the same? If it's different, is it something that you're willing to, you know, work together? You know, it's not a must-have, but it's also makes it more relationship more cohesive and more mesh, right? If you do have similar spirituality or faith, but we can both acknowledge that in this new day and age, people do date outside of faith and spirituality, and that's perfectly okay. So we want to note that. However, if you do have that similar core value, it does make it less challenging. Career goals and life goals. You know, are you currently in school, or your partner or person you're dating not in school? You know, we want to note that people have different life goals. You know, you don't have to go to college, and is someone you're willing to date potentially have a trade skill job? You know, something that you yourself are asking yourself, is this something that I'm willing to have and willing to see this person core values as? You know, everyone has their own special skill trait, and it's okay to find a love or a relationship through any form through that individual based on what you need for yourself and that person. Another thing I want to highlight is political views. You know, when we think about Thanksgiving dinner or anything like that nowadays, family are often split. And so you want to ask yourself, you know, is it okay for my partner to have different views than I do? And that's something that is a hard question to ask, because we tend to adapt to our environment and our peers. So and they potentially can't help how they think. However, are you both willing to learn from each other or adjust from each other? If that's something that's a break all, that's something I completely understand. This is a tough one, because political views is often talked about a lot nowadays, and it often ends a lot of relationships because it's something that we all hold true to our own values. Lifestyle, finances, time together, you know, this is something that I want to really highlight, because, you know, does this person constantly require attention? Are you dependent on each other? What is your boundary like? You know, really finding that balance early on is really important. because you see it all the time. Some relationship are potentially are very clingy, something we learn in social work school, and that causes a lot of issue for relationship. Or some relationship doesn't have enough attention. So what is the balance for that relationship? Does this person have integrity? Are they honest with you? Are you honest with them? Are they able to be authentic? Are they able to express empathy towards you when you are going through difficulties? These are core things we want to really have when we're searching for a partner. Is there anything else you want to add to this, Joanna?
Oh, I think that's great. And I think it's really just important, again, to know yourself, right? And we all might have different answers on this, right? Maybe you have spiritual beliefs, but they're not super like core values to you, right? That's also valid. And maybe that's okay for you to date outside of your faith. Or maybe your faith is like super, super important to you and you wouldn't want to date outside of it. It's really individualized, but it's really asking yourself these questions before you're even at that point of choosing a partner, so that you know what you're looking for and what you're not looking for. Like, what are deal breakers and what are things you must have in a relationship. So I kind of want to just explore a little bit about this idea of the toxic relationship. That's a word and a phrase that we might hear a lot or say a lot, but what does it really mean? How do you identify a toxic relationship versus a healthy relationship? Sometimes it's really obvious, and sometimes it could be more subtle. So I kind of wanted to just explore a few things that might come up in a toxic relationship versus a healthy one. First of all, when we're talking a healthy relationship, I think almost number one, you really can't have a healthy relationship without mutual trust and respect, right? And I think most of us would agree with that. We don't want a partner that disrespects us, that doesn't trust us, and that we can kind of have that real support from. So when you are lacking trust, a lot of times you see excessive jealousy. And jealousy is an emotion that stems from the belief that, you're not going to be loved, or your love is going to be taken away or put somewhere else. And it's an emotion that it's a very primitive one, and many of us feel it, right? So if you are like me, I'll just be honest, like, I've experienced jealousy in relationships. That's okay. But when it turns into controlling behavior, that's when you've got a problem. Are you jealous, but are you able to like talk about it openly and resolve it, right? That's healthy. But are you jealous and therefore searching through your partner's phone without their permission, or trying to control who they spend time with, right? Because you're afraid of potential infidelity or something of that nature, right? That speaks to a lack of trust and a lack of communication that would turn into a toxic relationship. Also, like Jimmy said, like, friendship is an important foundation for a relationship. Obviously, for many of us, physical attraction is important, right? But if your relationship's only based in physical attraction, my guess is you're probably going to run into issues, right? The majority of time you're spending together, you're hanging out, you're doing common activities that you like. If you and your partner don't have any interests in common or any values in common, it's not going to work out in the long term. So really pay attention to and prioritize those things, because when you create a relationship just on physical attraction, it kind of muddies those waters of like what you're really looking for. Also, this idea of separate identities versus codependency. Do you have a sense of self? Do you have things that you like to do, or friends that are yours that you spend time with, and things outside of your relationship? Nourishing yourself and self-love is going to be really important if you're going to come into a relationship with somebody, because you want to make sure you're not dependent on them to make you happy, right? You want to be able to do things for yourself so that you're happy to begin with, and then that person is just a bonus, right? And I'm going to explore that a little bit more later. Obviously, communication, being open and honest, right? When we don't have honesty in a relationship, what do we have? We can't trust if we don't have honesty, right? So if there's dishonesty, there's lying, there's cheating, or on the other hand, Is there just lack of communication altogether? Do you not feel comfortable talking about your feelings, or does your partner never open up to you? That's also a big red flag, because there should be that honest and open communication if you want it to work in the long term. Because like our next slide or our next bullet point, we're always going to have conflict eventually, right? Different people have different ways of thinking, different values, different experiences. So even if you're compatible, you know, you're going to run into conflict. But how do you manage it? Are you able to talk it through? Are you able to resolve it? Are you able to kind of put your ego to the side and listen to that person? Or are you just yelling at each other? Are you picking fights? Is the conflict unproductive and unresolved? Right? That's kind of the difference there. And then, like Jimmy said, authenticity is so important, and your own self-respect. So I have to respect myself, I have to value myself, and I have to really show up as myself. If I'm changing who I am to meet somebody else's expectations, I'm not being honest with them. And I'm also not trusting them, right? You really need to be with somebody who you can trust will accept you for who you are. And if you have to change who you are for somebody else, that's toxic, my friends. You know, that's not, we all deserve to really be our best selves with the person we choose to be with. Anything you want to add to that, Jimmy?
Yeah, I think that I really appreciate this slide. It could potentially be very confusing for some, because nowadays, day and age with social media, there's a lot of glorifying toxic relationship traits, like being jealous is cute, or being mean to this person is appropriate. If he is mean to you, he likes you. You know, things like that, that is very glorified in today's media. That can be very confusing. You know, oh, he doesn't reply to me all day, he's playing games. He means he really likes me, or she likes me, you know. And these are things that are very conflictual to a person, and you have to recognize early on that, you know, those are just the media and things we poke fun at or make memes about. It's not really true life. You know, we can't continue holding on to those toxic things and saying this is great about my relationship because he picks on me and he really likes me. Those are wrong.
Yes, thank you for emphasizing that, because that's so true. I think media, social media, sometimes they really reinforce the wrong stuff for us to
For
be
sure. Yeah.
finding the right relationship that's going to be healthy for us. So I wanted to spend a little bit of time on this idea of codependency. Like I said, we really wanted to talk about how important it is to have that sense of self in a relationship. And when you don't, when you depend on your partner for your identity, for all of your happiness, recipe for a really toxic situation. And I want to go into that a little bit more. So what is codependency? Codependency is a term that's not a clinical term, so you're not going to go to a therapist and get diagnosed with it or anything like that. It's really just a pattern of relationships that was first talked about, I believe, in the 80s with Alcoholics Anonymous groups, because the idea was that a lot of people who struggle with addiction come from families or have support systems that are codependent, right? So they're in social support systems where those people are reinforcing their addiction by doing things for them, by enabling them, right? And by kind of reinforcing that person's addictive behavior. And why does that happen, right? So the reason codependency really happens, it's the inability to tolerate the distress of others, right? Distress is a tough thing to tolerate, period, within ourselves, but a lot of us really don't know how to tolerate when somebody else is upset. Now, when you're in a relationship, you're going to see that person's true self, hopefully, if you've got that authenticity factor. That means that person's going to be upset sometimes. Maybe that person's going to be annoyed with you, right? If I'm a healthy and well-adjusted partner, I'm going to be able to manage my own emotions about that. But if I'm a codependent partner, and let's just be real, this is something that so many of us struggle with. I know for a fact when I was younger, I struggled with this. So I want to just take away the shame if you're identifying with this right now, right? Think to yourself, when your partner is upset with you, do you just try to like over apologize and you can't even like stop the conversation until they've forgiven you, right? Do you not let them have some time to think and process? I know that for me, I did that a lot in my earlier years of life. So that's codependency, right? When we can't tolerate when others are upset. And what that turns into for a lot of people, you neglect your own personal needs to focus on making your partner happy, right? So we'll just always eat what you want for dinner. I don't care. And oh, I had these plans, but you want to hang out, so I'll just cancel my plans and spend time with you because I don't want to make you upset, right? So you kind of just neglect yourself so that you can just give, right? And the reason we do this is because maybe our self-worth is a little bit too tied to having a relationship. Maybe we're really afraid of being alone. We're afraid our partner is going to leave us. And for a lot of us, we have those fears for good reasons, right? Maybe you have experiences growing up where you were neglected, abandoned, hurt by somebody important to you and your family. And therefore, you now have this pattern where you just go to extreme lengths to make sure somebody doesn't abandon you again, right? And the reason that's a problem is it's going to maybe put you in a vulnerable position where others might take advantage of that, right? Not everyone, hopefully most people wouldn't do that, but it happens way too often where people will take advantage of somebody with a codependent relationship pattern. Also, the idea of an enmeshed identity, that's like my identity, I don't have one outside of this relationship, right? I want to spend all this time with this person. I don't know who I am outside of this, so therefore I can't let it go, right? Poor boundaries, not saying no, not honoring your own limits, trying to control somebody else's behavior, right? Because you're afraid that they might leave you. That can also be a factor of codependency. So those of you watching, you may relate to some of these, but not all. But I'm going to say, if you do relate to these, really first pat yourself on the back for admitting that to yourself, because it's hard to do. And just know that it can be changed, right? You can unlearn these things. I know I had to. So we at CAPS are here to support you. There will be a slide to reach out to us at the end if you relate to this dynamic or are in a relationship like this. We would love to help you with that.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
All right, so this is my slide. We're going to talk about how to maintain a healthy relationship. It's important to respect individuality, being yourself and accepting one another as who you are. Your relationship is going to suffer if you can't be your true self with this person, which we really highlighted early on this presentation. If you're constantly molding or trying to be something else for this person, it's not gonna be good long term. We have to be really honest there. Or constantly trying to force this person to change for you. That's something that happens quite often in our relationship, especially when the person is a rescuer. They find someone that is very potentially, quote unquote, social media term damage, or not doesn't have it all together, and they're trying to save this person. Those early on is you're not respecting your true self. You're trying to make someone who they're not. Though it is a nice idea, how is it going to be for you long term? And history has noted that those relationships don't last very long, or it doesn't come very healthy. The next part is willing to work to conflict. Conflict resolution skill for your partner or the person you're dating is huge. How is your skill and how is their skill? Are you both willing to have an open, honest conversation and kind of meet in the middle and ask yourself, what is the compromise? What do I have to adjust for you? What do you need from me, and what do I need from you? Those are the conversations that really benefit a healthy relationship, because reality is, we're all different. We're all raised in different homes, potentially different family, different values. So things are always going to come up in a relationship. We're always learning about each other. You're always learning about ourselves. So it's really important to strengthen your communication skill with your partner and work on your conflict resolution skills. And that takes time. I don't expect you to have conflict resolution skill early on, because you don't know how they're going to react, especially if someone is, passive aggressive, someone who is stonewalling you, meaning they just shut down, or someone who is unable to respond because they just something that they struggle with, potential trauma, or someone that is having a hard time communicating when it comes to a difficult conversation or a difficult topic. And that's something that you both will have to learn about each other and work through it by trying to develop a more healthy relationship. Is this person fair? Or, talk about equality. Is there certain demands? Are you both sharing chores? Are you both, paying for rent? If you move on to that stage in life where you're moving together, is there a fairness in your relationship? Or do you feel like you're holding a relationship? And the reality is, you never know. Things are weird nowadays. Your partner may lose their job or get laid off. And that's something that we all work through nowadays. However, is that something that you can hold on, being that primary supporter for down the road, long term? Are they holding their own weight in other ways? Are they doing other things such as supporting you emotionally, potential tidiness within the household, or anything like that, or just checking in on you as a partner, right? Another way to maintain a healthy relationship is a sense of playfulness. We revert back to that friend. It's nice to kind of play. Go to things together, enjoy food together, play board games together. Things that we share when we do activity together. It really enhances the relationship. The downfall of a lot of relationship is that it potentially gets dull over time. You're feeling like there's lack of activities or things to do together. So always remember to be playful together. Add adventures together. Let's go sightseeing. Let's go for a walk. There's so many outlets out nowadays to do. I know that there's certain barriers at the moment. However, there's a lot of outlets nowadays for us to do to enhance our playfulness together as a relationship. Do you want to travel together? Do you want to paint together? Do you want to whatever, right? Many things. Go to your friend's event together. And overall, you need to work on trust and support. And that can look very individualized. We all build trust and support in our own unique way. What would that look like for you? Is that having a continual conversation? Is that presenting openness with each other? Is that, putting everything out on the table so that you both are aware of what you want, and willing to listen to a person's need. If someone does struggle with trust, what do you need from me? Back to that compromise or adjustment. What do you need from me to trust me more? What can I do for you? Vice versa. Is there anything you want to add to this one, Joanna?
No, I think that's all really good. And I really like the idea of just really prioritizing fun and playfulness, because this is a very serious topic sometimes to talk about, but relationships should be fun. Dating should bring joy to your life for sure. It's not always going to feel like that, but really being able to have fun with each other, I think, is so important. So really good advice. All right. So again, I just want to emphasize that at CAPS, we do offer individual and couples counseling. So if you're a UM-Dearborn student, you and your partner, whether or not they're a student, also can access couples counseling. Or if you're somebody who's like, I just want to get some individual help right now, or go to one of our support groups, please reach out for more information. Our email is on this slide. These are relationships can be tough. So sometimes the strongest thing we can do is admit that we need some help or could use some support. So we're here to provide that service for you.
All right, everyone. We want to thank you for your time, spending time with us, and watching this whole video. Hope you have a great rest of your evening and day.
Take care, everyone. Bye.